as promised, today I'm going to tackle the pumpkin ale. Now this is a new formula for me, and I have not tried it, but I'm kind of looking forward to see how it turns out. I've done a couple pumpkin ales in the past. One was a porter, a pumpkin porter, and it was a kit. And I always wanted to try and come up with my own. Now the Brewer's Best kit that I had basically was just a spice packet that went in. There wasn't any real pumpkin in it. I know a lot of people like to use real pumpkin. I did not want to go into my mash tun with pumpkin. It's hard enough to clean as it is. I didn't want to add that. And my understanding from what I've read online is the pumpkin doesn't really give it flavor, it gives it a mouthfeel. So I'm going with the pumpkin spice. Thought I'd just go through the list with you really quick of what I put together for a grain bill. I've got 7 pounds of the 2-row. I have 2 pounds of the Munich Malt 10, which was a little hard to get, I don't know why. 8 ounces of the Caramel Crystal 60 and 8 ounces of the 80. So it's a heavier grain bill than I usually have. This is 10 pounds. Ordinarily I'm around 9. But I think it's going to be just fine. Then what we're going to have to do is mash in about 3 1/3 gallons of water at 166, which should give it a temperature of 152. So after that, we'll sparge with about 4.3 gallons of water, go into the boil, and then this has 1 ounce of cluster hops for 60 minutes, and that's it. And then as soon as we eliminate the boil, we'll throw in the spice, which is going to be 2 teaspoons of just pumpkin pie spice, and that's it. So I read a lot online of people who were doing different combinations of spices in their pumpkin beer. I wanted to just go with something that I thought would be simple but not overpowering, so I landed on 2 teaspoons. Some people went 1 and then added like cinnamon sticks and other, spices. I'm just going to add the two teaspoons and leave it at that. I noticed some people had done 3 teaspoons and then said later it was a little overpowering, so I think 2 hits us kind of in a mid-range, and we'll see how it turns out. And that's it. So let's get started. All right, I'm ready to collect the first runnings off of this batch. It's been an hour. It actually had a little lower temperature than I would have hoped for. I believe it was supposed to be at 152 degrees for an hour, and I was at about 148. So hopefully that should be fine anyway, but I'm not sure what the issue is because it's plenty warm in here. It's not like I'm dealing with cold equipment. I'm going to go ahead and start this. There we go. Okay, so we just want to let this run clear and then we'll be good. And I'm not seeing, other than the first initial push of grain coming down, I'm not seeing a lot. We are having a little, but it's not terrible. And it's a nice dark color, which some people that haven't been able to get the Munich malt had subbed in regular 2-row, and I'm not sure that is a great substitution to make. When I put it into Beersmith and looked at how everything lined up as far as color and all the other key factors, I did sub in the 2-row to see what that would do, and after I watched how everything lined up, I didn't like the looks of it. So I just thought, well, I'll just try and find the Munich malt somewhere else. I had a hard time, but I did find it. So we're good. I think I can start to dump this back into the mash tun and do the fly sparging. And when the fly sparging is over, there's no sense to really look at that. You guys have seen me do that 100 times. We'll get into the boil. So back in a bit. All right, I am fly sparging. I was not going to really show that because it's the same every time regardless of what batch I'm doing. But I did want to say We're going to sparge with 3.8 gallons. I take that back. It's 4.3 gallons of water at 168 degrees. And what I've been doing lately is I bought one of these thermometers, the electronic ones, and I've noticed that by the time the water gets down to the sparging process from the hot liquor tank, it has dropped a few degrees. So I've been taking the temp right at the mash tun where the water's dropping in to see where I'm at, just to make sure that I'm hitting the right temperature of 168 degrees. What was happening a couple minutes ago is even though it said 168 up above, I was about probably 3 degrees less down in the mash tun. So just another way to make sure that your temperatures are right. So back in a bit. Okay, we are starting the boil. Our pre-boil gravity is 1.046, which is exactly what the spec sheet called for. So that's good news, and I really like the color. It's almost an amber. Smells great. Probably smell even better once the cluster hops are in there. So we're just going to boil. One fun fact about this pumpkin ale is pumpkin was really introduced into beer by the settlers when they came over because they were running out of things they could ferment, so they went on to use pumpkin to make their beer. And so that's a little fun fact from history. So we'll be back when it's time to throw the hops in. All right, the boil is starting. So I'm going to throw in the cluster hops, and that's a 60-minute boil. And then we'll terminate the boil, and we'll put in the 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. So we'll be back when it's time to throw in the spice. All right, I'm going to terminate the boil. And now it's 2 teaspoons, tongue twister, 2 teaspoons of the pumpkin pie spice. This is McCormick's brand. I sanitized the spoon, and I'm hoping I can just do it like this as opposed to sticking the spoon in there. So there's 1, and here's 2. Boy, that actually smells pretty good. Oop, that's a little bit more than I wanted. Okay. Let's stir that bad boy. You could really smell it at first, and now it's become a lot more subtle. So that's probably a good thing. Okay, next step is to chill it down and move it into the carboy. All right, for those of you that know my chilling setup, I do run my pool water through the coil and then back into the pool again, because right now in Texas the water temperatures are really nice and cool. Saves water, chills it down fast. What I did in the meantime is I just sampled it with a spoon to see how it tasted. And it is very subtle, but it tastes like pumpkin. The interesting thing is when I went out and came back in again, after I'd been outside for a while, and I came in, this whole shop smells like pumpkin pie now. So I think that's a good sign. We'll see how it turns out in a few weeks, and hopefully it'll be a pleasant surprise. But if not, I'll let you know so that you don't try the recipe and get a disappointment. So back in a little bit with aerating the wort, and I'll pitch the yeast inside the house because it's a bit of a jaunt, and there's a lot of shaking that goes on with the carboy, so I'll wait till I'm inside before I pitch the yeast. Well, that's it for brewing the pumpkin ale. Everything turned out good. The pre-boil gravity at 1.046 was spot on. That was just a hair off on the post-boil gravity. It was supposed to be a 1.052, I had a 1.053, negligible. Cooled it down to 70 degrees, aerated it, put in the US-05 yeast, and we're good to go. So let's see, maybe a month from now we can try it, see how it is. Until then, I hope you guys have a great week. Cheers. Chocolate stout, good anytime. This has been a Matty Boy presentation. Say bye-bye, Matty. Bye-bye.